What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we are going to be doing our 2023 rookie tight end recap. It is the last of our recap series, so if you haven't watched those ones, go watch those videos. What we do is we talk about how these rookies have performed during their rookie season, and then we'll talk about how we're valuing them going into the 2024 season. So without wasting any more time, let's talk about how these guys started the preseason and how we looked at them going into their rookie years. So obviously, if we want to talk about how we're reacting and how we're viewing them moving forward, we got to talk about where they began. So looking at these preseason ADPs, this is how these guys were being valued coming into the rookie drafts earlier this last spring. So what you see is Dalton Kincaid coming off the board in the late first round as your tight end one. Michael Mayer was the first tight end off the board in the second round. Him and Sam LaPorta in that second round, as you can see. Luke Musgrave, third round pick. Darnell Washington. Luke Schoonmaker, not really sure how to say his name right now still. Tucker Kraft. Then you had Brenton Strange, Will Mallory, and Zack Kuntz coming off the board as a UDFA. So this was kind of how we valued the rookie tight ends, man. These were the top 10. As you can see, the big three that we've had, Kincaid, Mayer, LaPorta, those were kind of the ones that we all liked, and that's how we were drafting them as such. But as we look at how they played in 2023, how did they finish? How many points per game were they averaging? Well, let's look at that. You see here on the screen right now, finishing as the tight end one in fantasy football as a rookie, Sam LaPorta, 14.1 fantasy points per game. Absolutely killed it as a rookie, man. Tight end 11 was Dalton Kincaid, 9.4 fantasy points per game. And then it's where it gets a little bit interesting. Tight end 29, Tucker Kraft, 4.6 fantasy points per game. So really not that many points per game, but he finishes as the tight end 29. Luke Musgrave, his teammate, 6.8 fantasy points per game as the tight end 31. You had Michael Mayer, tight end 35, 5.1. Then you had Will Mallory, Elijah Higgins, Luke, Davis Allen, Josh Whyle, all these guys who were just averaging 3 points or less. So not a lot to work with here. But I think the biggest things that we're taking away is obviously the big season from LaPorta, the tight end one finish from Dalton Kincaid, and then Michael Mayer not really performing the way that we thought he would. With that being said, I want to talk about a couple of these players. I have 4 player spotlights, and what we do is we talk about how they are being ranked currently in the community. So we use a free tool called Keep Trade Cut. If you're not familiar with Keep Trade Cut, it really is just showing a trend or a value of these players that are live. People are voting on them, community-based rankings. So people vote on them. We kind of use it as a stock market evaluation. We can see trends that rise and fall. So I don't really want to waste any more time. Let's hop right into this rookie spotlight. The first one is going to be Sam LaPorta here for the Detroit Lions. And like I said, man, Sam LaPorta absolutely balled out as a rookie, finishing as the tight end one. And because of that, he is currently being valued as the tight end one over here on Keep Trade Cut. Started his season with a low you see there of 3,291 KTC, continually trended up and up and up and up. And now tight end one, 6,512 KTC. How am I viewing Sam LaPorta? Well, I think it is, I think it's earned. It's deserved. This is a guy who I think at the tight end one, you probably are not buying him at this price, although I wouldn't say that I'm avoiding buying him at this price. I think this guy is the real deal, but obviously there's not much room to work with as the tight end one. So I think we hold him at this price. And when I say that, I want to talk about some of the value adjacent players to him. And when we look at the value adjacent overall players, you see guys being valued similarly to Sam LaPorta in Dynasty right now are going to be Garrett Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Love. Then right below him, you have guys like AJ Brown, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, this is a very expensive price tag for Sam LaPorta. I think you see the names in there, obviously the AJ Browns, the Kyler Murrays, the Christian McCaffreys, and you're like, damn, am I really going to value Sam LaPorta that high? I think you should, because this is a guy who finished as the tight end one as a rookie. I think for many years, he's going to be one of the next elite tight ends here in fantasy football. And if you play in a tight end premium league, that is worth its weight in gold. And talking about tight ends, let's look at some of the value adjacent tight ends to Sam LaPorta here. You see, obviously he is the tight end one, so the only people adjacent to him or people below him, that's TJ Hawkinson, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, David Njoku. I think you would take Sam LaPorta over all of these guys. I just don't really hear the argument of anybody being over Sam LaPorta at this point. Young as hell, really put on a clinic this year and in a very good situation, and checks all of the skill set boxes that we wanted in a rookie tight end. So Sam LaPorta, man, he is a hold for me, but I also would say if you can go buy Sam LaPorta, I would buy Sam LaPorta. I think this price is very well earned, very well deserved, and this is a player that is going to be very good, a cornerstone piece for your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams for a long time moving forward. Now, moving on to my second tight end spotlight, that is going to be Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. And Dalton Kincaid was obviously the number one tight end for us coming into the preseason. As we saw, this is a guy we were very excited about, got first round draft capital, went to the Buffalo Bills, who said that they were going to use him like they used Travis Kelce in Kansas City. Now, you see, earlier on in the year, started kind of just up and down, was just doing that for a little while, ended up seeing a little bit of a dip, hit an all-time low of 3,754 KTC. Then he had some really good games. That's probably when Dawson Knox was injured. Goes, puts out a couple tight end one performances, spikes all the way up to that 5,254 KTC, and now he's dipped down a little bit to 4,772 KTC. That's where he's at right now, currently being valued as the tight end 4. So it's funny to see a guy who has dipped at the beginning of the season, saw a spike, dipped again at the back half of the season, but he's still being valued as the top 4 tight end in fantasy football. So right now at this price, to me, Dalton Kincaid, he's a hold. You look at the value adjacent overall players. There's guys like T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, an early 2026 first, guys like Mark Andrews, Saquon Barkley. I think in the value adjacent overall players, there's probably more buys for me than there are in the value adjacent tight ends. I think I would move Kenneth Walker for Kincaid if I could. Maybe I didn't need an extra running back and I wanted to get stronger at that tight end. That's maybe something I do. I'd probably move one of those early firsts in 2026 for Kincaid, especially if I'm in a tight end premium league. I would argue Saquon, I would still move. But when you get into the Mark Andrews, I do have Mark Andrews above Dalton Kincaid in my personal rankings. I do think that the wide receivers, it starts to get a little bit more interesting there as well. But let's look at the value adjacent tight ends, because that's where I really do think that he is being valued appropriately. And that's why I do say that he is a hold for me at the tight end position, because you see the guys above him, LaPorta, Hawkinson, McBride. I would agree with all of those guys being above him. Now, below him, Mark Andrews. I told you I have Mark Andrews above Kincaid in my rankings. Then Kyle Pitts, David Njoku. I would have Kincaid over those guys. But right now, he feels like the price is pretty appropriate. And that's funny because he is kind of trending downward, but this is where I feel his appropriate price is at. So for me, this is a hold on Dalton Kincaid. But again, this is another guy who is a young tight end, showed flashes this year, and I think this is a guy who's going to be very good for your Dynasty Fantasy Football teams moving forward. Now, moving on to my third player spotlight, here's where we're going to be talking about Luke Musgrave, tight end for the Green Bay Packers. And Luke Musgrave is currently being valued as the third highest valued tight end from this rookie class. Currently the tight end 13 over here on Keep Trade Cut. 6'6", 253 pounds, big guy, played basketball. This is a guy who is very athletic, but you see he started at a low 2,227 KTC and has slowly trended up and kind of flatlined, but then saw a little bit of a spike here at the end of the year. 3,310 KTC is where he sits. Tight end 13. Not sure if I said that, but tight end 13. So for me, Luke Musgrave, this is a guy who I am probably going to be selling at this cost. And there's a couple reasons why. I think the offense of this Green Bay Packers obviously ascending. Jordan Love has been a guy that has impressed us this year, but I do think that there's a lot of weapons here. And I typically like to target tight ends who are at worst the second option on their offense. And so to me, this is a guy that probably isn't going to get the volume as some of the other tight ends. But where I really do see the value in selling Luke Musgrave is mainly in that value adjacent tight ends. But let's start with the overall players. There's guys in here like Charbonnet, Kirk Cousins, Evan Engram, a mid-2024 second, Alvin Kamara, Michael Mayer. So when I look at this list of value adjacent overall players, I think there's some people in here that I would sell Musgrave for. Some people in here I wouldn't sell Musgrave for. Would not be trading Musgrave for Charbonnet. Would not be trading him for Kamara. Probably not that mid-24 second. But I do have Engram over Luke Musgrave in my tight end rankings. I think that's an upgrade if you can make that swap. I think Kirk Cousins is an upgrade. I do have Michael Mayer over Luke Musgrave in my personal rankings. So these are all guys that I would consider maybe selling Musgrave for. But I'm definitely not going to sell Musgrave for those running backs. But when we look at the value adjacent tight ends, this is where I really find the value in selling Luke Musgrave. And the guys being adjacently valued to him at this tight end position position, you get names like Travis Kelce, Cole Kmet, Evan Engram, Michael Mayer, Isaiah Likely, Pat Freiermuth. I think looking at this list right now, I'm taking Kelce over Musgrave, Kmet over Musgrave, Engram over Musgrave, Mayer over Musgrave, and probably Pat Freiermuth over Musgrave. The only one on this list I'm probably not taking is Isaiah Likely. So if you could sell Musgrave for any of those guys, maybe if you're trading lower to a Freiermuth or a Mayer, get a little bit thrown on top. Those are probably moves that I'm making. And this is a guy who saw Tucker Kraft kind of break out too. So they do have two pretty decent tight ends there in Green Bay. I just don't know if the pie is big enough for Musgrave. And if he's being valued here almost as a tight end one, almost as a top 12 guy in Dynasty, I'm probably going to re-roll the dice on this one or go get a guy who I know can give me some top 5, top 10 numbers at the tight end position for at least the next couple seasons. And now moving on to my final player spotlight, I did want to talk about Raiders tight end Michael Mayer. And the thing about Michael Mayer is his season did not start out very good. He really just was not playing a lot of football. So you saw that when he came in, he did dip down quite a bit. He hit that low of 2,593 KTC. Then he saw a spike, started playing, and he's kind of improved his stock since then. Currently sits at 3,286 KTC. That's almost exactly where he started. So we're valuing Michael Mayer similar to how he began the season despite the play. Currently being valued as the tight end 14, 22 years old, 6'4", 265 pounds. This is a guy I'm holding. I believe in Michael Mayer quite a bit. This is a guy who I personally had as my tight end 2 coming into the 2023 class. I had a lot of faith in Michael Mayer as a prospect, had a great collegiate career at Notre Dame. Now we look at the value adjacent overall players. There's guys like Musgrave, that mid-second, Alvin Kamara, Jameson Williams, Calvin Ridley, Matthew Stafford. I am probably going to buy Michael Mayer with the value adjacent overall players. Like I said, I'd sell Musgrave for Mayer. I'd sell the second for Mayer. I'd sell Kamara for Mayer, JMO for Mayer. I'm doing that for these guys. But the reason why I say he's a hold is because when you get to the value adjacent tight ends, he is being valued in a tier where I do think there's some upgrades in this tier. Cole Kmet, I'm probably taking over Mayer right now. Engram over Mayer. Freiermuth over Mayer. Goddard over Mayer. So I think right now we're waiting with Michael Mayer. And I understand that I've talked about a couple guys that I'd buy him for, a couple guys that I'd sell him for. So it's probably a little bit confusing. But I think that with tight ends, we do need to wait a little bit. It does usually take these guys a couple years to fully break out. And I do think that year 2 is going to be a lot better for Michael Mayer than year 1 was. I think this is me just saying hold him. I'm betting on the talent because I do believe in Michael Mayer that way. This is a guy, it's going to depend on how you view him, how you view the Raiders situation. I think there's a couple ways you could go with Michael Mayer depending on how you view him this offseason. But for me, I'm holding him. I believe in him, and I believe the situation is going to improve. And I do believe that come this time next year, we will be valuing Michael Mayer higher than tight end 14. So because of that, that is a hold for me from Michael Mayer. But now that we've talked about the player spotlights, I do want to talk about a couple more of these guys because there is a lot more rookie tight ends that we could probably look at and make some evaluations on going into the offseason. So you see these current rookie tight end KTC evaluations. You do have Tucker Kraft. Again, this is a guy who I used to kind of argue as a reason to sell Luke Musgrave. I would also sell Tucker Kraft. Similar reasoning for Luke Musgrave. These guys kind of eat into each other's production profiles. And again, an offense that is ascending, but probably has a lot of mouths to feed here in the future. Luke Schoonmaker, this is a guy I'm holding. I think his value could increase in the future if there was ever a Jake Ferguson injury. And then at that point, you could probably just sell Luke Schoonmaker. But if you want to sell him right now, I don't really blame you either. Now, going on to tight end 35, Darnell Washington. This is a guy a lot of people were excited about because he had a really good combine. I'm selling him. He hasn't done anything this year, and he's playing behind a guy in Pat Freiermuth who is much more talented than Darnell Washington. Brenton Strange, and I know, play on his name. Strange enough, this is a guy that I might be buying because his price is dirt cheap. Evan Engram is 30 years old, and he is soon to be a free agent here in the next year or so. So I do think that Brenton Strange could have some value if you wanted to throw him on a taxi squad for a very, very cheap cost, or maybe even pick him up off your waivers for a very cheap cost. Elijah Higgins, I was hyped about Elijah Higgins for a minute. Sold, sell him, he's done. Cameron Latu, sell him. I don't really see anything for him in the future for the San Francisco 49ers. And then Davis Allen, tight end 56. This is a guy who I don't know. He had a good game or two this year, and now Tyler Higbee has torn his ACL here in the playoffs, so maybe Davis Allen gets some snaps starting at tight end going into the offseason. I don't know, but I think there's a very cheap price of Davis Allen. Again, probably another guy you could get off of the waiver wire. So if you want to buy Davis Allen, go buy Davis Allen. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. So if you did enjoy the video, go ahead and hit that like button. It is the best free way to show this channel some support, and it does let me know that you guys are truly enjoying our content. Additionally, if you disagree with anything that I said in this video, or maybe you do agree with the things that I said in this video, let me know in the comments down below. Love engaging with you guys and having conversations down there. And also make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel. Also make sure you're hitting that notification bell. That way you guys are notified every time a new video comes out, and that way you guys never miss a future upload. And last but certainly not least, make sure you guys are a member of that Discord. There is a free Discord link in the description. And like I said, it's free to join. We're in there 24/7, 365, helping you guys out with dynasty trades, waivers, strategy, anything you guys have all off season long. We're helping you with your dynasty teams. And that is also the one place where you guys will have the opportunity to help out in future videos when we do mock drafts, when we do trade shows, where we do all of that stuff. It's all submitted and it's all entered in through that Discord. So like I said, it's free to join. There's no risk in joining that. So click the link in the description and join that Discord today. And now with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys on our next video. But until then, peace out.